the Melissa Hortman State Office Building in honor of the late House Speaker who was assassinated by someone from the right, as you guys remember from last year. So catch all of those articles and many more over at heartlandsignal.com, our digital newsroom and digital platform. Great stuff there for you guys to review and to share. On today's show, our guests include Amy McDonald, a new voice for you guys. Maybe you follow her on social media, maybe you don't. Amy is the host of The Foolish Optimist. It's a podcast. She's also a voice that I started to follow back at the end of last year because of some of the things she's posted and some of the things that she talks about when it comes to race and gender. And you know, those are topics that are very important to me. And that's how I started following her, candidly. And then we started talking, and I said, you know, it would be great to have you on the show and talk about your work and talk about some of your commentary. We've joked around because Amy, like, what I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the cathartic part of it. I seem to connect with people that have salty mouths on social media. You know, Kurt Mullen and I laugh about that all the time. You guys hear us. But Amy is really, really good at delivering some information in a way that a lot of people haven't seen or heard before. And she talks about race and in America. She talks about racism in America. She talks about gender and sexism in America, among other things. But Amy's a new voice to the show and someone that I wanted to have on and have a conversation with her. So she'll be with us in the 7 o'clock hour. And then our good friend Mike Nellis, another salty mouth person. he jokes around about one of the things he's definitely going to try to get me to do is to curse on the air. And when we say curse, we mean the 7 words that we can't say on the air. But Mike will be with us in the 7:30 hour. And as you guys know, he's the host of not only the podcast, but also the Substack, Endless Urgency. So looking forward to having Mike with us in the 7:30 hour, and talking a lot about a lot of things today. And right out of the gate, I want to throw out a question to you guys, and we'll put it out to you again. Tomorrow is Election Day here in Illinois, primary day, and there are going to be lots of people who are voting. There's lots of signs out all over the Metroplex, and there's elections in the city as well as in the state. I mean, when I say in the city, I mean in terms of the congressional districts where the majority of them are geographically. But we've got 4 major congressional districts that are voting tomorrow, and we've got a Senate race. It's a lot that's happening. So I'd like to hear from you guys today on that, taking your calls starting now in terms of who you've either voted for, if you want to share that with us, or who you think you're going to vote for if you haven't voted yet. And in that same space, who you think will win or who you think will represent well in the district that you might be voting in, or for, our state Senate, our U.S. Senate seat here in Illinois. I want to hear from you guys in terms of what you think about the election and who you're going to vote for, who you think is going to be the right person in a particular race. So give us a call. You can hit us with a text, but I'd love to hear from you, to hear a little bit about your rationale behind who you may be voting for, and who you think will be the winner. That might also be a way to approach it, who you think is going to win, if you don't want to share who you're going to vote with. And we'll talk about that. I want to give a little bit of a shout out, and then we're going to hit a quick clip. I want to give a shout out to the Academy of Arts and Sciences, of course, the Oscars, for a couple of quick reasons, as quickly as I can. In my life, I've watched the Oscars a number of times over the years. Always enjoy watching it. Sometimes the movie or the person or whatever didn't win that got nominated that you were pulling for. That's just how it works. But I want to give a shout out to Michael B. Jordan. He's in a rarefied air of now 6 black men that have been nominated and won Best Actor. That's rarefied air. We got to give him his flowers. Well earned for the movie Sinners, as well as Ryan Coogler for Best Screenplay. Rare air as well. Jordan Peele is the only other black man that's ever won the Academy Award for Best Screenplay, Adapted Screenplay. So that's rarefied air. You give the flowers when they're due. And so, those other 5 men are Sidney Poitier in terms of Best Actor, Denzel Washington, Jamie Foxx, Will Smith, and why am I drawing a blank? Forrest Whitaker. And now Michael B. Jordan. So kudos to him for the great work, and to Ryan Coogler as well, and to the rest of the Academy, folks who won and those who were nominated. But I want to give the Academy a broader congratulations. In my lifetime, I have never seen Hollywood's always been, left politically, and I'd say 90%. I don't know the exact number, but I'd say 90% of what we see in terms of the politics of Hollywood has been Democratic over the years. And even those who are Republican over the years have been more moderate Republicans, I would say, if you look back in the history of Hollywood. But in recent years, and particularly in the last 12 months, 13 months, since Donald Trump's been back in office, I've never seen the attacks on Hollywood or the industry like I've seen ever before in my life by any president or their administration or the right-wing voices. I saw so many things on social media that trashed the Academy Awards, and whether it was boring or not as exciting, it is what it is. But the trashing of the art, the trashing of the work, is the part that I kind of thought, is a little bit. It's indicative of the times where we are. And I've never seen a White House act with such disregard. Disregard's not even the right word to use here. Just outright, anger and disgust and little pansy boy comments about Hollywood, because he's jealous, and they don't like him, and they call him out. But the political side, the political part of this, and the business side of it's really been interesting. This administration, like no other administration other than the previous Trump administration, has gone after Hollywood, has gone after people in Hollywood, has trashed them, has even threatened them with their livelihood in terms of shows not being able to stay on. And quiet as it's kept, was even threatening ABC that if there was too much commentary from them about the president or about the administration, about the war, that they would find ways to institute fines. So we could go deeper and deeper into this one. I'm not going to do that because we've got to hit a break. But I give kudos to the industry for hanging in there when the president of the United States and his administration and his minion have been attacking them and attacking their livelihood and trying to create these mergers with Paramount and other companies to take away from their independence. That's a real thing that's happening, guys. So shout out to the folks in Hollywood. Shout out to those who are staying in the fight and doing what they need to do to preserve their livelihoods, their business, their art, and their craft. So there you go. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
You may recognize his voice.
I'm Barack Obama.
And his.
I'm J.B. Pritzker.
Two Illinois leaders who both agree Juliana Stratton is a fighter for Illinois families.
Juliana Stratton has spent her career serving our community and protecting public safety. Juliana will fight to get guns off our streets.
And no one knows Stratton better than Governor J.B. Pritzker. As Lieutenant Governor, Stratton worked with Governor Pritzker to raise the minimum wage, deliver paid time off, get assault weapons off our streets, and defend abortion rights.
Illinois deserves a United States senator who knows how to fight for us. A senator who will never cower when the moment calls for courage. I'm proud to endorse Juliana Stratton for United States Senate.
You heard them. Now it's time to vote and send Juliana Stratton to the U.S. Senate. Paid for by Illinois Future PAC. IllinoisFuturePAC.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Illinois Future PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Robin Kelly grew up behind the register in her dad's grocery store. so she knows what it means when the same groceries cost more each week. Under Donald Trump, corporations get tax breaks, loopholes, and a green light to price gouge. Families get higher grocery bills, higher childcare costs, high healthcare premiums. It's Trump's economy. Corporate profits first, people last. In Congress, Robin Kelly's been fighting back. Robin took on insurance companies to lower drug costs. She wrote the law extending Medicaid for new moms to a full year because cutting care after 60 days was just wrong. And now Robin Kelly is running for Senate with a people over profits agenda. Medicare for all, so healthcare isn't a ripoff. Cap on childcare costs so families can work. And crack down on corporate price gouging so you're not punished at every turn. People over profits. Robin Kelly for U.S. Senate.
I'm Robin Kelly, Democrat running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Robin Kelly for Senate.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Yeah, it's that political time. We got ads flying all over the place. And again, speaking to the elections, I'd like to hear from you guys who you think's going to win. If you want to tell us who you're going to vote for or who you voted for, that's cool too. But I'd like to know who you think will win in the various elections that we've got going on here in Illinois. And even those of you who are outside of the state that you may have elections going on in your state, let us know. We're just curious. See what's happening in that space. Let's hit them with a couple of quick Choose Views news items on this Monday, March 16th, 2026. Job hopping isn't the financial boost it used to be. Job hopping is losing its financial appeal. Job switchers saw a median pay bump of roughly 4% in January, less than 1/3 of the boost some received at the height of the pandemic hiring spree in 2022. With the labor market cooling and the candidate pool growing, employers have little incentive to compete aggressively on salary. The result is a workforce that's increasingly inclined to stay put, a trend economists have dubbed the Great Stay. Forward deployment engineer demand is soaring, but the interest is weak. What does that mean? The demand for forward deployed engineers in Silicon Valley has skyrocketed as companies seek to best connect their workforces with advanced AI technologies. By one measure, job postings for the role have increased by 1,000%. But many engineers are reluctant to pursue these types of roles because they've seen the demand and the push become less prestigious as products and have been deemed as problematic for other employees. So it's interesting where we are going to be in this engineering demand. The oil market anxiety spikes as the U.S. strikes key export hubs in the Middle East. When the U.S. military destroyed military targets on Karg Island, markets looked for indications of damage to Karg's oil infrastructure. You can take out the Karg infrastructure. You can take out 2 million barrels of oil per day out of the market. Not good, according to Reuters. Costco begins offering members Sesame fertility care. Along with $1.50 hot dogs and cases of paper towels, Costco is now providing fertility care in partnership with cash pay health platform Sesame and the IVI RMA North America clinics. All U.S. members can get a comprehensive intake evaluation with a Sesame clinician and be referred to an IVI RMA specialist as well. Excuse me. Fertilization medications are discounted up to 80%, and the collaboration is aiming to address the barriers to care for 1 in 6 Americans who suffer from infertility. And last but not least, the White House is to receive, and I got some extra comments on this, to receive $10 billion for their role in the TikTok deal. The Trump administration is poised to receive a $10 billion fee from investors involved in the acquisition of TikTok, USA's operation. The Wall Street Journal is citing various and anonymous sources. The fee, which includes an initial $2.5 billion payment made in January, was part of a broader agreement allowing American investors, including Oracle and Silver Lake, to take control of ByteDance. The deal underscores the federal government's emerging role in corporate deal making. Now, you know who the CEO of Oracle is. And I wonder if you know which other company he's connected to. Paramount. Larry Ellison. Follow the money. I've been saying it since Watergate. Follow the money. So here's my thoughts on this. $10 billion fee, success fee from the TikTok deal. It's basically, it's a payoff. It's a payment for, providing better access for Oracle to get this deal done. That's what it is. My question is, and this is a question that everybody should be asking, and I mean literally every American should be asking this question. If the U.S. government is going to get more deeply involved in brokering deals for private corporations or public corporations to buy businesses, and then the government's going to get paid for that or get a fee for that, every doggone dime of that should either go into the general accounting fund with the U.S. to strengthen the U.S. debt ratio, or that money should then be turned around and put back into the general economy and put into the pockets of Americans, because it's American taxpayers that are providing the access to the resources and the data and the tools and the expertise for the federal government to be employed in the first place to be able to broker any kind of deals where there is a success fee that's paid. When we get into this conversation about what the government does with money, we know that this administration specifically has taken in some very questionable resources or forms of compensation or remuneration, or some could call it bribes. But at the end of the day, if the government is going to start acting like an investment banker in geopolitical deals, then we need to have even heightened scrutiny for those dollars, where they come from, who they really come from. No shadow, payoffs or payments or success fees paid. It needs to be fully disclosed, and we need to see. We then need to see that money be put back into the general economy. $10 billion fee. Boy, what could $10 billion do for a whole bunch of families throughout the country? We don't know that it's going to sit properly, in a government bank account to be used for the government to strengthen itself. We don't know that. We don't know that part of that money is going to end up in Donald Trump's pocket or some of his cronies' pockets. So there needs to be full disclosure if the government's getting a success fee for helping to put together a deal, or basically playing an investment banker / broker to keep Larry Ellison and Oracle at the table. And who knows who else has been at that table. Full disclosure, and let's keep it real simple. Turn around and put that money back into the general economy so that people who are struggling can benefit from that. I'll keep you posted as best I can on that. But I came across a clip that I want you guys to hear as it ties into where we are with this war. Actually, you know what? Let's save that till we come back after we come back from the next break, because I want to play both of those. I kind of want to stay on point with this conversation around money going into the pockets of it, because we also know that there's a person tied to this administration, Jared Kushner, who essentially is selling out the country to some of the richest autocrats that are out there. Let's talk about this for a second, as this comes back to this situation with this $10 billion success fee. Kushner recently met in Florida with Kirill Dmitriev, the head of Russia's sovereign wealth fund and a longtime financial emissary of Vladimir Putin. Dmitriev is not simply a diplomat. He is effectively Putin's bag man. The meeting was also included Trump envoy Steve Witkoff, another billionaire with a vested personal financial interest, whose sons run the Trump family's shady, opaque crypto fund, World Liberty Financial. The third notable figure at the meeting was Trump administration official Josh Greenbaum. The Florida meeting was ostensibly a discussion about ending the war in Ukraine. Kushner holds no official diplomatic title that would normally authorize such talks, but titles are beside the point, of course, in this Trump era. What matters is proximity to power, and Kushner has that in abundance. What he also has is a private equity firm called Affinity Partners, which is funded by billions of dollars from foreign governments. In late 2024, as we've heard, shortly after the Trump regained the White House, Kushner told a podcaster that he would not raise any money for Affinity Partners while Trump was in the White House. We don't have to raise capital for the next 4 years, Kushner boasted. He also promised to preemptively try to avoid any conflicts. It turns out he didn't really try hard enough. In recent weeks, Kushner has been pounding the pavement all over the world looking for money while serving as the nation's de facto Secretary of State. Did you hear that, Marco Rubio, with your ill-fitting shoes? At a time of war in both Europe and the Middle East. The details are sketchy, but I feel schemes going on. So when you look at that and you look at this situation with this government fee, this U.S. government $10 billion success fee, folks are getting paid and paid off. Meanwhile, everyday Americans who voted for this garbage, the 78 million people who said, oh, he's a businessman, he's going to get in there and fix everything, he's going to take care of us, he's going to protect us from the brown people, they're coming and stealing our jobs. Y'all are getting hosed. And I don't mean with a green garden hose from the backyard. I'm talking about that fire hose that the fire departments used. And it's on full throttle. Meanwhile, you're hating on black and brown people in the LGBTQ community and independent women. Meanwhile, these guys are robbing you blind. They're snatching every dollar that blows by them. It's like it's like a windstorm of money just blowing by, and they've got big nets at the end of the block catching all of it. And you're on the other side of the net waiting for $1 or $2 to slip through. Meanwhile, hating on people that look like me and look like Devin and look like Mike. Better wake up. Let's take a quick break, y'all. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Chicago, on March 17th, we choose our next voice in Congress. LaShawn Ford's record, disqualifying. LaShawn Ford was indicted and convicted by President Obama's Justice Department for tax fraud. And that's just the start. While we were struggling, LaShawn Ford was getting rich in real estate, ripping off working people and evicting families in need. Then Ford voted to raise our taxes by 32%, one of the biggest tax hikes in Illinois history. All while skipping out on paying his own taxes and voting to give himself multiple raises. LaShawn Ford sticks us with higher taxes while he gets a deal. We can't afford another self-dealing career politician in office. LaShawn Ford is not who we need in Congress. Paid for by Fair Shake and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Fair Shake is responsible for the content of this advertising. www.fairShakePac.com.
Election night is almost here. Join us for the WCPT Election Night Special on Tuesday, March 17th from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. hosted by Joan Esposito, Richard Chu, and me, Patty Vasquez.
Election Day coverage will start with Joan Esposito live, local and progressive from 2 to 5, and Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez from 5 to 7.
WCPT will have reporters all over Chicagoland with updates from state and local candidates' election headquarters.
The WCPT Election Day coverage and the WCPT Election Night Special are sponsored by Fazio Insurance,
an independent insurance agency serving residents and businesses in Will and DuPage counties since 1953.
For more information, contact Paul Fazio at 815-727-2611 or at FazioINS.com.
Remember to join WCPT Radio on Tuesday, March 17th to get the latest primary election news.
See you on the radio at 8:20 a.m. and WCPT820.com.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Laura Lockwood. A high wind warning continues until 4 p.m. this afternoon. Rain showers likely overnight, otherwise cloudy skies expected. Lows level off around 39. Southwest winds 20 to 25 miles per hour. Cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun Friday. Daytime highs approaching 48. Lows level off around 31. Friday night, mainly cloudy skies expected. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 45 degrees.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Richard Chu's got his eyes on the truth. And you're right where you need to be. This is Chu's Views.
Hey there, guys. Welcome back. Today on Live, local and progressive, Joan Esposito will be taking your calls and talking to media critics Mark Jacob and Jennifer Schulze and USA Today columnist Rex Hupke. Live, local and progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, heartlandsignal.com, and TuneIn. Tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by Belle Catabug, a Democrat running for judge in the 20th Sub-Circuit of Cook County. That's a mouthful. Goodness, even then you practice it. Illinois House candidate Demi Palachek, along with activist David Hogg, Susan Smentek, candidate for DuPage County Forest Preserve Commissioner, and more. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCPT AM 820, the Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And then tomorrow on Choose Views, I'll be taking your calls and talking to Brian Lemach, Executive Director of Defend the Vote, and we'll be speaking on the SAVE Act. Then Barbara McQuaid, legal analyst, law professor, author, and co-host of the podcast Sisters in Law. Looking forward to talking with Barb again. Candidate interviews, of course, we've been really talking about that a lot with the Illinois midterm elections just one day away. WCPT is posting all of our candidate interviews at heartlandsignal.com/candidates. That includes candidates from the hotly contested U.S. Senate campaign, and it has been hot, and the open congressional races in the 2nd, 4th, 7th, 8th, and 9th districts here in Illinois. The four-way state comptroller contest, the House and the Senate races here in Illinois, and so much more. So make sure you're checking out our all of our posts by visiting the page, our heartlandsignal.com page, and you'll get all those interviews. Let's see. The election night coverage, I'm going to make sure to cover this, begins tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central. I'll be here with Patty Vasquez and Joan Esposito, and we'll have our special guest on live updates from reporters all around the Metroplex, candidate call-ins, and the big speeches as they happen. So you can listen on WCPT820.com and tune in radio or watch the live stream on the WCPT Facebook page and the Heartland Signal YouTube page. WCPT's election night special is sponsored by Fazio Insurance, an independent insurance agency serving residents and businesses in Will and DuPage counties since 1953. For more information, contact Paul Fazio at 815-727-2611 or at fazioins.com. And don't forget, we're on Facebook. And we are reading your comments, so please leave your thoughts as well as like and share the page. Find it at facebook.com/WCPT820. Yes, make your way over there. Okay, I was talking earlier about the money, and we've got to stay plugged into this. We have to be made aware. There has to be transparency, and there has to be a conversation around if the government, the U.S. government, is going to suddenly start playing investment banker / broker, then any monies that come in, we have to be fully disclosed. These fees that are being paid by independent investor groups to the U.S. to broker a deal using our resources, access, and leverage, that money needs to go back to the citizens. The government should not get to keep any of that. And if you want to use, and if that's a way for the government to raise money, I'm not necessarily against it. I know that the problem with it is who's at the table, who's getting cut in on these deals. But the other side of it is, and I'm just trying to be as reasonable as I can, the money that comes in, those fees should be turned right back around. And I'll say it 1,000 times, to the general public. Imagine, and Mike just sent me a quick bit of information to chew on. I mean, you could do the research yourself or put the numbers together yourself, but $10 billion would provide a pretty substantive and robust national food program to feed every school child in the country for an entire year. Even if it were half a year, why does that money need to stay in the hands of some shady people that are tied to the government or the Jared Kushners of the world? No, it goes back to the citizens. That's how I see it. And there's not much one can convince me differently. Because if the government's using our resources to get a fee, it's pretty simple that money should then be shared with the people who need it the most. Period, end. But we do have a government that's done some pretty craven things over the years. And I came across a clip that I wanted to share with you guys about kind of when in this war that we are currently in. It does speak to how this is not the first time. And unless we pay very, very close attention, it's not going to be the last time. So, Devin, let's let them check this out.
I think that we are an incredibly ruthless country. The amount of murder and mayhem that we've created around the world is just unbelievable. You know, I was looking at a study the other day put out by Lancet, which is a scientific journal. And they did a study. This was put out, you can see it on the internet. It was put out in November of 2025. And what the article did was it looked at sanctions, American sanctions, from 1971 to 2021. 1971 to 2021. And it asked what were the consequences of those sanctions. And we murdered 38 million people. 38 million people. The amount of havoc we have wrought on the Middle East in recent years is just stunning. You think about the consequences of the Iraq War, what we do in places like Venezuela, Cuba, Iran. You understand we're using this tremendous economic leverage we have to basically starve people, to make them suffer, to inflict great punishment on them so that they'll rise up against their government. You understand that this is what we're doing in Venezuela. This is what we're doing in Iran. We're inflicting massive punishment on these people. Given all that, I find it very difficult to talk about the United States as a noble country.
So, the economic part. This is first of all. Let me slow down for a second. The man speaking is John Mersheimer. He is a political scientist, and it was at an event at the University of Chicago's Graham School on politics. The Lancet that he talked about, you should just Google the Lancet and U.S. foreign policy, and this will really kind of bend your ear. But what he's speaking about that I think we sometimes forget, maybe we don't forget, but we don't, it may not be top of our minds, is the harm. I mean, why is it that there's so many countries that do have a huge disdain for the United States of America? And then oftentimes, and the majority of the times, you look at where we are currently, right now, what is it that Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran have in common? Well, clearly it's resources, oil. But there's another thing that they have in common. I mean, there's oil in northern countries, meaning countries that are not brown countries. Just, you know, I've tapped danced around it for a moment, and then I just want to get to it. It's brown countries. We've gone into and invaded from Vietnam to Iran to Iraq to Cuba to Venezuela. Mike Nellis and I will probably talk a little bit about this. And it's always ultimately caused those countries to try our reasoning to going and getting their quote unquote dictators or their leaders is to shut down that government so that the people can rise up. But in the process of that happening, like John says, is that they then become dependent on the United States. And the dependency is for resources. So if we can go in and topple a regime and topple a government or take away their leaders or their dictators or whatever we want to call them, and then force dependency of the citizens on the United States, that puts us in this ultimate power position. We tear you down, and then we make you come to us to build yourself back up again. And by coming to us, we want to share the resources. We want to share of all the things that we're going to use to help you get propped back up. But inevitably, it happens time and time again. There's a person that the United States has been having in waiting that's going to be ultimately the leader that they want to put in place. It's happened time and time again. Look what happened in Venezuela. They took out Maduro, but the person that's really sitting in the wings is really just the person that's more complicit to the United States' will. It's happened in Cuba. It's going to happen again. They're talking about it. Same thing. And I know there's people who say, yeah, but Richard, the citizens of those countries are applauding that these things are happening. They do until they start to see the necessity of dependency on American resources. It's one of the reasons why the migration that takes place across the globe, if you dig deeply enough, you will see that migration is often, you got to go back far enough to ask, how did it happen that country was so deprived of resources? And that the people, the citizens of those countries decided to leave their homeland and go someplace else, to migrate someplace else. Why is that? It's because the resources were depleted to the point where they became dependent or they had to leave. They leave the country. What happens? The U.S. and its allies goes in and it takes over the country and its resources and starts to build it up and make it what they want it to be. And a good example of what we're faced with right now is what's happened in Gaza. Happening in Gaza. And this is going to be somewhat the case that we're going to see in Iran. The Bush administration during the Iraq War, we're going to take democracy to Iraq. It didn't happen. We tore them down to make them dependent on the United States of America. We're doing it again in Venezuela. We're attempting to do a version of it now in Iran. So John's not too far off. But check out this article. The Lancet is where you can find it. I think you guys will appreciate the deeper dive that you'll find by pulling it up and reading it yourself. We're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
You may recognize his voice.
I'm Barack Obama.
And his.
I'm J.B. Pritzker.
Two Illinois leaders who both agree Juliana Stratton is a fighter for Illinois families.
Juliana Stratton has spent her career serving our community and protecting public safety. Juliana will fight to get guns off our streets.
And no one knows Stratton better than Governor J.B. Pritzker. As Lieutenant Governor, Stratton worked with Governor Pritzker to raise the minimum wage, deliver paid time off, get assault weapons off our streets, and defend abortion rights.
Illinois deserves a United States Senator who knows how to fight for us. A senator who will never cower when the moment calls for courage. I'm proud to endorse Juliana Stratton for United States Senate.
You heard them. Now it's time to vote and send Juliana Stratton to the U.S. Senate. Paid for by Illinois Future PAC. IllinoisFuturePAC.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Illinois Future PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Chicago's Progressive Talk. WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chu.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on Choose Views.
All right, guys. Welcome back to the show. 773-763-9278. There are a number of conversations that we are having right now about politics, about the money that's in politics, and certainly with all the elections that are going on here in Illinois and other parts of the country and have been going on. It's always good to hear from you guys. Let's grab a quick call from our friend Al in Franklin Park. Al, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard. I was going to tell you what I'm thinking right now, and I have a question for you too, and even for the audience.
What's that?
And, that would be how many people are using mail-in ballots, and how many people are going to go to the polls? Because when you go to the polls, you got to have a ballot in front of you that you can mark up and take with you. Because right now I'm looking at my ballot that I downloaded from Cook County, and I still got 6 things I haven't. I got 6 races I'm not sure about that I got to look at.
Well, at least you got the what I'll call it the ballot information card. So at least you know what's going on, what the races are, and who the candidates are. So that's the upside of that. But yeah, I mean that's a good question, and believe me, when you first asked me, I said I have no idea what the number or the percentages are of mail-in versus go to the polls numbers. But all I want to see is people do one of the two, either early vote, mail-in, or I should say one of the 3, or actually go on election day and vote.
Yeah, and why I say that is it can be intimidating to go to the poll and not know all these different races, like the state central commissioner district 3 or board of review 2nd district, judge of the circuit court, and if you don't know those things, just don't fill them out, but get the it's better to know them. But if you don't, because somebody that just walks into the polls and tries to vote gets intimidated, and they might have had experiences from being at the polls before.
Yeah. I think a lot of times that there is a certain intimidation factor, or not even so much intimidation factor, but kind of what's the word I want to say? Just a lack of knowledge factor. I don't want to say anything negative, but just a lack of knowledge. And here's one of the things that actually my wife and I have talked about this in the past. I would like to see more money. Money's the wrong word. More resources and time put toward explaining what those roles are, what those offices are, not just in Illinois, but throughout the country. Who is that person, or maybe more importantly, what is that office and what does it do and how it impacts your life? I think that the Democratic Party has a huge opportunity to do something that you and I've talked about before in terms of building a stronger foundation and stronger base of voters and support. And that's spend a little bit more time talking about what is that role of XYZ that's a city role or a county role, and how that impacts a person's life. I think the more Democrats spend time on that, or resources on that, I think you will have an electorate that's more willing to come out and be more informed because they have been informed. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree, and I get so much stuff in the mail, but it's all not necessarily explaining how it works. And I'm finding many of the states around us send a sample ballot to people that they can look at, whereas Illinois just sends you what they want, and it's hard to find it online sometimes because you got to look at Cook County, or you got to look at the county that you're from. So yes, I agree, and explaining this, and but we just get so much information, and it's hard to find the right information. Yeah,
no doubt about
right
that.
Right now I'm thinking about Juliana Stratton and Holly Kim, and I'm still thinking about some of these other things on the ballot, and it takes some time to do that. And you have other things you have to be working on too.
Yes, you do.
So
yes, you do.
I just figured I'd call in and tell you where I was at on this stuff right now.
Sounds good, Al. Thanks for the call, man. Appreciate you reaching out.
Sure. We'll talk to you next time.
Talk to you next time. Have a good day. All right. Bye now. Yeah, I mean, Al makes a good point, and it's just something that like the person that is that doesn't know can be intimidated. I guess I will come back to the word. The person that doesn't know what that role is in government may look at it and go, I have no idea. Not only do I not know the candidates, I don't even know what that role is. And I think it's an opportunity. I've been saying this for years. It's an opportunity for the Democratic Party to do something that the Republican Party is not doing. And the Democrats Party is not doing it either. frankly, is to talk about here's what this is what this role is and what it means to you and what it means to your day-to-day life. And it's typically going to be the local stuff. I mean, we have a pretty reasonable understanding of what the president does, vice president, the cabinet. We have an idea for the most part, and certainly Congress, House and Senate. Okay. We know what our governor does and our lieutenant governors do, and what our state people typically are chartered with doing. But sometimes those local elections we don't know, and I think a lot of times because that's where the real sausage is made in terms of allocating funds and making allocating resources toward things that need to get done in a community. That sometimes people just back away from that because they don't know what does that person really do or what is that role really designed to do. So that's an opportunity. That's really an opportunity. And maybe that's one of the things that when we talk about how can we get involved and how can we do more as progressive liberal Democrats, maybe one of the things that we should be pushing for is more education around what local roles are designed to do. And I know that, the city of Chicago versus the city of Seattle, Washington versus the city of Houston, Texas versus the city, versus Miami. We could pick any number of cities, all do things a little bit differently, and the title for that role is a little bit different, but they may do the same work. But wow, what a huge opportunity for the Democratic Party to say, as part of our goal to reach more voters and get more people involved in the process on a local level, state and national level, why don't we spend some of our resources better educating people on what the title of what that role is and what he or she does in that role and how it impacts your life. I think it's kind of a basic, it's part of the thing I've said before about civics and the importance of civics. But I think it also ties to something that I've been saying for years now, is that we've got to take back a lot of the local power in cities across the country and states. And when we do that, we rebuild our foundation as Democrats. So I'm just, I'm putting it out there. I mean, Al made the point as a caller, and I'm putting it out there as something that, I feel that we could take a great advantage of and do a really wonderful job to better educate people who want to be better, who want to be more of the process and more influential in the process of not just voting, but social awareness. So I guess I could put that on what I would call my wish list of things that I wish the Democratic Party could do, or I wish we could do in a way that would be highly impactful. So we'll see. We'll just put it out there. Some numbers. Okay, thanks for this, Mike. 2024, 29% voted by mail, 30.7% voted early, and 39.6% on the election day. Wow. Are those national numbers? Okay. Wow. So that's a pretty good breakdown. I mean, people still want to get out and go to the polls. And obviously that 30% that voted early and the 29% that voted by mail, that makes up a greater percentage of the total amount that voted. So it does show, once again, that voting by mail and voting early has its impact. So there you go. All right, guys, let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and when we come back, we'll be talking with the host, Amy McDonald of the Foolish Optimist. Looking forward to having a conversation with Amy. We'll be right back.
Straight Talk Wireless presents Pickup Truck Wisdom.
Trust is earned. That's why I've stuck with Straight Talk. Same price since 2009 on Verizon's 5G network. Cause shoot, anyone can make a promise. Keeping it for years, that means something.
Now plans starting at $25 a month with 4 lines. Find us at straighttalk.com and Walmart. Straight Talk Wireless. Straightforward. Always. Same price claim applies only to the base monthly price of our $45 plan from October 2009 to present.
Amazon Business empowers leaders with smart business buying tools, leaving time to focus on strategy and growth. Free up your teams and focus on your future at AmazonBusiness.com.
AP News, I'm Haya Panjwani. Israel is striking on Tehran and Beirut, and Iran strikes on the Gulf amid a rising energy crisis. AP correspondent Karen Shamas.
Explosions echoed over the Beirut skyline overnight into Monday as Israel launched new attacks on Beirut and Tehran. Meanwhile, Dubai's airport suspended flights due to an Iranian drone that struck a nearby fuel tank. Iran also launched missiles towards Israel on Monday. The fighting has been disrupting oil shipping through the Strait of Hormuz and pushing global energy prices higher. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told MS Now on Saturday that the strategic strait was open to some.
It is only closed to the tankers and ships belong to our enemies, to those who are attacking us and their allies.
President Donald Trump says he's asked several countries to send warships to protect the strait, but none have committed so far. I'm Karen Shamas.
Meanwhile, AP's Lisa Dwyer reports that President Trump is upping the pressure on China.
President Donald Trump says he may delay his anticipated trip to China as he pressures Beijing to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz to ease soaring oil prices. Trump told the Financial Times on Sunday that China benefits from the strait and should help keep it open. Aboard Air Force One, Trump told reporters,
"Why aren't we maintaining the Hormuz Strait when it's really there for China and many other countries? Why aren't they doing it?"
Iran has nearly shut down the waterway. Trump says the U.S. has talked with about 7 nations seeking assistance to help keep it open. Currently, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is meeting with China's vice premier in Paris for trade talks tied to Trump's potential trip. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
This is AP News. The U.S. has won gold again and achieved a historic hockey feat in Italy. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh.
3 weeks after the United States beat Canada in the Olympic hockey finals, the Americans overcame their neighbors again to win Paralympic gold and complete the sweep at Milan Cortina. Jack Wallace scored a hat-trick to help the U.S. beat Canada 6-2 in Sunday's para ice hockey final and become the first nation to win all 3 of the hockey tournaments at the Olympics and Paralympics in the same year. Caden Beasley, Declan Farmer, and Brody Roybal also scored for the U.S. Liam Hickey bagged both goals for Canada. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
Forecasters said mid-Atlantic states and Washington, D.C. are at the greatest risk for high winds and tornadoes. A cold front was expected to move off the East Coast by Tuesday, bringing sharply colder weather in its wake. More on these on apnews.com. I'm Haya Pinjwani, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Laura Lockwood. A high wind warning continues until 4 p.m. this afternoon. Rain showers likely overnight, otherwise cloudy skies expected. Lows level off around 39. Southwest winds 20 to 25 miles per hour. Cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun. Friday, daytime highs approaching 48. Lows level off around 31. Friday night, mainly cloudy skies expected. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 45 degrees.
In times of uncertainty, we need leaders who put country before party. Dan Tully answered that call, serving our nation with honor.
I served in the Army Reserve and as a federal civil servant. But when the Trump agenda threatened our democracy, I refused to stay silent. I left my job in Washington in protest of Trump's lawlessness.
Dan Tully is the only candidate with a detailed plan to hold Trump accountable, a veteran, a principled leader, and ready to fight for you.
Visit DanTully.com to see my comprehensive strategy for accountability. I'm Dan Tully, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Dan Tully for Congress.
Ah, the most beautiful time of year is upon us. Tax season. And Tax Slayer is here to help you file. We guarantee 100% accuracy and your maximum refund. Those are some good numbers. And you can trust me, because I'm a talking calculator. Did I mention Tax Slayer even has support from real U.S.-based humans if you have any questions along the way? Beat the rush and start for free today. Tax Slayer. File fearlessly.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show. As we said before, we've got WCPT's election night coverage, which begins tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central Time. I'll be here with Patty Vasquez, Joan Esposito, and we'll have special guests, live updates from our reporters all over, candidate call-ins, and big speeches as they happen. So listen to WCPT820.com or tune in, as well as you can watch the live stream on WCPT's Facebook page and the Heartland Signal YouTube page. The election night coverage is sponsored by Fazio Insurance, an independent insurance agency serving residents and businesses in Will and DuPage counties since 1953. For more information, contact Paul Fazio at 815-727-2611 or at FazioINS.com. And don't forget, we're on Facebook reading your comments. So please leave your thoughts as well as like and share the page. Find it at Facebook.com/WCPT. All right. So one of the best things about this my show, or me being the host of this show, is I'm always curious. I'm intellectually curious. I'm information curious. I'm like, what's next? What's out there? Who's a voice? Who's somebody that's saying some things that nobody else is saying, or saying things that other people are saying, but from a different position? And late last year, I started noticing that there's this woman who was posting some just amazing stuff. And as I said at the beginning of the show, talking about racism, talking about race and racism, talking about sex and sexism and bias, like not a lot of people had been, certainly not with her complexion. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to start listening to what she's saying. And then I reached out and I said, hi, my name is, this is what I do for our show and blah, blah, blah. And I said, let's talk. Love to have you on. Your voice it resonates with so many people. And, things just started playing out and we connected, and that led me to the Foolish Optimist, also known as Amy McDonald. Good morning, Amy, and welcome to Choose Views on WCPT here in Chicago.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing good. We've got a bunch of primary elections going on here in Illinois, as you probably know, and it's certainly there's some big races. We've got a shift race, meaning that we've got a Senate seat that's been held for a long time. We've got some congressional seats that are 4 of them. Yeah. So it's, we got a big day tomorrow here in Illinois, not just Chicago, but, Chicago being kind of the epicenter. So I'm excited about that. And we here at the station are going to be doing a lot in that space. And I'm in the fight like you. We're fighting this craziness that's coming from the White House and the administration and this crazy, feckless cabinet. I already warned everybody. I said this is something that Amy and I have in common, and that we are the salty mouth kids.
I'm going to try really hard. I'm going to try very hard to keep it FCC appropriate.
Right, there you go. But we really appreciate having you on this morning. Amy, take a moment and just share with our audience here in Chicago and across the country a little bit about you, how you got to this point where now you are, you're hosting your own podcast and your voice that's out there. That one of the things I want to try to do is amplify as many voices across the country that are talking about the things that we need to be talking about. So share with our listeners a little bit about you.
Sure. My name is Amy McDonald. I go by Amy Mac on the internet, and that's just an old nickname that I'm of the age where we had just Instagram for our friends, and my Instagram is a remnant of that. But I started a couple years ago to relearn U.S. history, and that's how I started posting on the internet, because I could see my friends' eyes glazing over at dinner as I walked them through very, very historical moments in the United States' history. So I just started posting on the internet, and I came to this conclusion that, one, I was not taught U.S. history properly, which means other people probably weren't as well. And that we often in the United States don't really talk about what our real problems are that are underlying. And, part of that is education, but part of that is because we don't want to get uncomfortable. But centuries of keeping people comfortable have led us to this moment where, about 37% of the country was ready, willing, and able to open their arms to a felon and put him in the White House for the second time after all of the things we learned. So that's the very short story of how I got to where I was. But my background is in sales, and I have people that I've trained in sales tell me that sometimes when I'm talking on the internet, I sound the way that I used to when I was selling things. And I was like, well, I am selling things. I'm selling ideas, and I'm selling, like you said, right, curiosity, and just trying to get people to peel back another layer or two and really understand how we got to where we are.
Yeah, and that's such a great way of breaking it down, Amy, and I appreciate you saying it that way. I know that feeling when someone, you're talking to someone and their eyes glaze over and like, okay, here Richard goes again, moments.
Yeah.
And so I get that. But keeping the focus on you, something you said about history and how history's gotten us here. And, we've spent X number of years letting people be comfortable. And the discomfort is where we would like to say that the growth is going to happen for our country and even bigger and stronger than we are. But it seems that comfort and privilege and access to the patriarchy is more important for some people than it is to do the work to make things even better than they are. What are your thoughts?
I say a phrase a lot. I say history informs us of who we are, but I also think a lot about, Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail and how it plays out in the modern day, right? He talks about moderate white folks, but what he's talking about is those people who care more about comfort. And we see that play out all the time, right? I have people asking me, oh, but couldn't protesters, protest a little bit, make it a little bit easier for people to get around them to go to work and things like that. And I'm like, no, that's the point. We're trying to break you out of your ennui of life, of just like everything is fine because it's not affecting my neighborhood and my community today. It's always been a problem in the United States. I think people are starting to wake up to it more and more now because it is affecting more and more people and more communities, whether that's ICE coming into neighborhoods or schools or even weddings, just really grotesquely taking advantage of communities. Or it's on the other side of it, it's economic, right? Life has become so harsh and hard for especially people of my generation, millennials and younger. I think people are waking up to realize that like the American dream was just that. It was a dream. They didn't ever really tell us that it would come to fruition. So I think there is both economic pressure and community-based pressure that are kind of knocking people out of their comfort, whether they want to or not, whether they're prepared to or not, which is a whole different story. But I do think a lot more young folks are waking up to it, and rapidly, and maybe very, very uncomfortably.
Yeah. So want to versus have to. Talk about that from your perspective as it relates to waking up to or coming out of the dream and getting into the reality state. Want versus have to. Talk about that.
I'm not sure if most white Americans want to ever. I think there's usually like a catalyst moment where they're like, oh my God. Like for me, that was learning about the 1898 Wilmington coup d'etat. I grew up in North Carolina. I sat through North Carolina history classes, and I'm like, nobody ever told me this. Nobody ever told me that we elected a fusion government between white Americans and black Americans, and the descendants of the Klan, the red shirts, killed all of them. They took over the city. They changed the trajectory of North Carolina politics. And that was my kind of like aha moment of like, okay, I knew something had been missing throughout U.S. history and the way I was taught. I was like, it's just not all making sense. Just it's not clicking. So that was my moment of like, I need to now dig in and learn everything I can. And so I don't even know if there's I don't know if for white Americans there's like a want to moment or a I have to right now, and I have to figure out what I can do to make it better for like the next generation. That's the approach that I'm looking at it as, right? We're in an entrenched system, and the next generation is going to have it even harder because it's another 30 or 40 years, what have you. So
One of the things that I appreciate when I listen to things that you post on social media is that you focus on your focus. And for everyone that's listening and watching this anywhere in the country, one of the things that I will tell you, and I don't want to spoil you, but I want to tell you that one of the things that's unique about how Amy presents information is, as salty as she may present it, with the point being made, it's about you. It's not about Amy. It's about what you as the listener or the follower can learn from it. And that to me was one of those great moments of separation where I sat, and I'm just being brutally honest, I have sat and listened to things that you posted, and I've gone, I know about that. I learned about that as a kid, but I kind of forgot about it. Not forgot about it, but right. I'm doing daily stuff now that we're fighting this daily war, but I have to remind myself, oh yeah, that happened, or that was a thing that took place. And what you just talked about with regard to North Carolina is a great example. And so sort of my compliment to you, and then you can pick this up and kind of run with it, is it's really about, I've listened to your material, I've watched your material, and I've said that's really you kind of identifying a thing that's happened and then sharing it with the world to say, you need to know about this. It's had an impact on how you live your lives, people. So talk a little bit about how and the why you approach what you present, your research and present that way.
Well, I think, first of all, I love history, so I think it's just very important to understand it. But I really do think that people forget how young the United States is, right? Like in the iteration that we exist in today, this is really formed after the Civil War, which is 160 years ago. And if you think about it that way, you're like, okay, 160 years, that could be maybe 5 or 6 generations, depending on your family, maybe even less than that, right? If you have people living and having children later. So I do it that way because I think, we see pictures of Martin Luther King Jr., we see pictures of even like the Black Panthers and all these people in black and white, but that was 60 years ago. Mm-hmm. My parents were alive. We had the polio vaccine. That's like how recent it was, right? Like this is things that still ripple into our society, whether we recognize it or not. And a lot of people think we've been dropped into this system. And, I think Kamala Harris put it perfectly. What do you think? You fell out of a coconut tree? Like every thing that's happened ripples into our life. And a lot of people who look like me, who are white, don't even recognize that like the system they live in is operating under this like fabric of white supremacy that was built upon it, right? They just think it's normal. Mm-hmm. And like, actually, no, there was a time where people who looked like us fought for this. And now it feels normal because it's been 60 years or it's been 160 years, but it shouldn't be normal. So we have to like figure out why and when the stories got passed down so much that it's just like, this is now how we do things.
History is such a great educator. It's a great tool. It's really nothing to be afraid of. But one of the things that a good friend of mine who also hosts a show here on WCPT, his name is Eric Grant. He talks oftentimes about when it comes to enslavement and treatment of people post-enslavement into Jim Crow, where a lot of folks don't want to talk about it. A lot of white folks don't want to talk about it. And he said that, I get that, and emotionally and intellectually, I get that if I had ancestors that did that to people, I wouldn't want to talk about that either. But that's where the real growth is in talking about it, to acknowledge that it happened. Doesn't mean one has to take responsibility for it. But then when you look at your life today and you see where you are, the responsibility that you should take is to understand that, and I say this oftentimes in terms of success of Black people and the strives and the accomplishments, that I stand on the shoulders of those successes. But white Americans have to recognize that, to your point, you didn't just drop in here and suddenly you were all about, you were the man or the woman. You are standing on the shoulders of people who fought for independence and fought for racial equity and balance. Oftentimes, many white Americans forget. You started on third base, and that's nothing to be embarrassed about, but acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Does that, you know what I'm saying?
And also bring people up with you. You know, I think this is like where the like intersectionality of white supremacy and patriarchy come into being, because I read this great book about a woman and creating her first $1 million. She made her business, and she went through all the statistics about what women do. And, you know, this is not an overarching theme with white women, I'll be honest with you, but a lot of white women and a lot of younger white women do this, and it's because we've learned from other people in our lives and other women, and we do have a tendency to like bring people up rather than shut the door. And so I'm like, if you have a place of privilege and you are at the table, bring other people to the table.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, I've had people do that where they have pulled me up or pulled me in and let me bring people, and it's not hard. Something we've been talking about a lot on my page right now recently is like being a good white woman and what that trope looks like under white supremacy. And a lot of white women have no idea what it is, but it's a remnant of the old days. And it's this idea that you need to go stand by your man. You need to find the guy that you're going to align yourself with, right? Because white women are in a very
crowd.
That's what the Gen Zs would call it today. But like, because it's not a real thing, it can show up in a million ways, right? Like, and I see it across generations depending, right? You see a white woman stay with a man that they know is cheating on them. And it's because, you know, the old heartbreaking phrase, like, what would people say? What will people think? You know, that kind of thing. And so there's this like common thread that I think every like white woman is like generationally pulled to, that we are seeing a lot of young white women break away from, whether that's like being childless or starting their own business or things like that. And that scares the right wing of our country.
Man, does it ever.
They need good white women to uphold their stuff.
Yeah.
And to make more white babies.
See you all. Amy's getting warmed up now. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and we are talking with Amy McDonald, host of The Foolish Optimist with Amy McDonald. So I was saying Amy's just getting warmed up now because I'm making her blush a little bit because, like I said at the beginning of the show and at the outset of this segment, she brings the heat, y'all. She speaks very, very plainly and clearly about what are some of the things that we don't talk about enough in our country. And a lot of it does tip into this area of racism and gender. And then the connection of those things to economics and resources in this country. So that's why I say you've got to follow her and check out the work that she does, because it does get right to the heart of the matter. Amy, talk a little bit about The Foolish Optimist and your podcast and how that's going, how that came about, and a little bit about the work that you're putting in there.
I'm so grateful you mentioned that, because actually one of the first people, so The Foolish Optimist, building this as like finding the next generation of American leaders. I'm interviewing candidates who've never run for office before, or they've run, but they haven't held office. And one of the first candidates I interviewed is a young man out of Charlotte, North Carolina, running for city council. He actually won his race by, I think it was like 100 votes. So everybody, please make sure you vote.
Your vote does count.
Your vote matters so much. Yeah, it matters so much. And he beat, an entrenched person who had been on city council forever, who just wasn't doing anything, right? But he was one of the first people to verbalize what I'd been feeling, and he was like, he's a young Latino man. His name is JD Missouri Arias. I think he's going to be a superstar. He's in his 20s right now. But he was like, white liberals often don't want to talk about race. And he's like, and I frankly think it's racist to not talk about it. And it just like kind of like blew my mind, because I was like, yeah, that's crazy that we've just kind of ignored it for so long. But we've talked to 65 candidates. These are all people in the center all the way to very, very far left. We've talked to people all over the country, including some people in Illinois who are running. And it has been illuminating to talk to these people who are like boots on the ground, talking to constituents all over the country, just because there's common threads everywhere, and there's common threads between the right and the left. And I think one of these really big ones is corporate PAC money. I've been calling it corporate sponsorships. Most Americans, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, are real sick of that. They're really, really sick of electing somebody and then having them turn around and do something against the interests of their constituents because they got $2 million from a major corporation. So I think that's been really great. And just seeing so many young people, I say young people new to politics, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're anywhere from 25 to like 65, just new faces in politics ready to go to DC, get their hands dirty, and really work for the people of their district or their state is, I want to cuss. It's really inspiring. It's really, really, really inspiring. It's one of my favorite parts of my day.
Well, and the thing that's so great about this is it's honest stories. It's talking to people that you believe have they're comfortable talking about the things that a lot of people don't want to talk about. And I think that's privilege is a word that gets thrown around a lot. But I think everybody experiences a certain amount of privilege to the extent that some experience much more and use it or have it available to them, but don't recognize that they could use it for good, is also one of the platforms that you take and are really bold about it, because you speak about the fact that if more people recognize that want to see change, that really want to see change, were to recognize the power that they have and not sit on it, but to use it, then they would make change, or they would be at the tipping point of making change so much quicker and frankly easier for a lot of people. Talk a little bit about how you see that.
This is one of my most frustrating topics that I talk about. I talk about the future a lot. I talk about change a lot. And every time I bring it up, people are like, it's impossible. We can't do it. It's just our system is too much, whatever it is. And I just, every single time I see a comment like that, I get so upset because I'm like, then you are disgracing every American that's come before you. Every person that has stepped foot to this country, one way or another. Every moment in time, there's been people advocating for change, planning change, changing hearts and minds. And I think about it most recently. Bernard Lafayette just passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw that news.
Yeah.
For everyone that doesn't know who he is, he was John Lewis's roommate. He's a founder or like very early starter with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And like, he should be an inspiration to every single person that's alive today, because he went to Selma, Alabama when they said it was not possible. Couldn't be done. You can't go there and change hearts and minds.
Yep.
And from 2 years from him going and like starting to have conversations with Black Americans in Selma, they were marching Selma to Montgomery. And he took this like very hard part of the movement, in my opinion, which is just getting people to believe that change is possible. This is why I talk so much about history, because people are like, we can't change anything. We can't do it. It's not. And everyone throws all these things at me. And I'm like, every movement that's ever existed has had the most technologically capable government pushing back on them. And they've figured it out. We can do it too. There's hundreds of millions of us, and we deserve much better than what we're getting from this country. And we all deserve better. So if we like create a system that is actually equitable, I think it can hold its ground for a lot longer than just, a generation and a half or 2 generations. But we have to actually get together and first believe in the change that's possible, and then mobilize for it.
Yeah. One of the most compelling things about that statement is people have to realize that if they really believe in it, if it's the thing that they really want to see in the future, and they've got to be willing to put something on the line. And just as we wrap up, Amy, a couple things I want to say. One, I still look forward to having you back on the show and having your voice be a regular part of what our audience across the country needs to hear. I really am a believer as part of the future is that we have voices that are looking toward the future and making statements and doing the work. And you're one of those voices. So I'm excited about having you back on the show. But talk a little bit about what you would like to see. If you were to say, and I do this often, Amy, 2 or 3 things, just a couple things that come to mind, and you say, do this right now. Wherever you are, anywhere you are in the country, do this thing right now. as part of seeing change for the future, what would that be? And then wrap us up by letting people know how they can find you and how they can follow you.
So the thing this is going to sound a little crazy, but I've been telling everyone I can get my hands on to go ahead and get life insurance. And that sounds morbid, but as we move into this era of people getting snatched off the street, as we get into a place where people are getting domestic terrorism charges for activism and things like that, life insurance, I think, is an important feature of these movements. And I also think they have a lot of lawyers and things like this. And I've talked to life insurance people. So I've been telling people to do that as a little bit of a safety precaution. But the most important thing to do is to plug into your community today, right? A lot of people get really stressed out and overwhelmed. They say, I don't know where to go. There's people in your community doing things. Maybe it's mutual aid, maybe it's organizing, maybe it is food for your communities, or maybe it's just preparing, right? We know that ICE is going to fan out into almost every city and every locality. And if you're in a bigger space that has more rural space, you need to be working a little bit more to get your community organized because you're a little further apart. The cities are a little bit easier, but we prepare for the worst and hope it doesn't happen. But if we don't have these systems in place, then we're going to have problems as ICE moves across the country. And then run for something. If you want some change, I heard the end of your last segment. This local level of government has been infiltrated by Moms for Liberty, people that want to create mini heritage foundations all over the country. But run for something and do some big governing right at home. A lot of things get done there, and a lot of those seats get run. A lot of those elections are run unopposed.
Yeah.
So maybe people want an option, and they just haven't had one in 10 years.
Good point. How can folks find you, Amy?
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Amy Mac. That's MACCC, 3 C's. And then the podcast is, I know, it's my millennial username. The podcast is The Foolish Optimist. You can find us on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify, pretty much everywhere except for Audible, because I don't like Amazon. So...
Amy McDonald.
Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. I've been really looking forward to having you on the show, and thank you for taking some time to hang out. Look forward to having you back in the future. We'll do this again sooner than later. I know you're busy, but we definitely want to have you back. People need to hear your voice, and I'm going to do everything I can to amplify that. So thanks for hanging out with us this morning.
Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. All right, guys, let's take a quick break. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. When we come back, we will be talking with political strategist, host of Endless Urgency, none other than Mike Nellis. We'll be right back.
Chicago. On March 17th, we choose our next voice in Congress. LaShawn Ford's record, disqualifying. LaShawn Ford was indicted and convicted by President Obama's Justice Department for tax fraud. And that's just the start. While we were struggling, LaShawn Ford was getting rich in real estate, ripping off working people and evicting families in need. Then Ford voted to raise our taxes by 32%, one of the biggest tax hikes in Illinois history. All while skipping out on paying his own taxes and voting to give himself multiple raises. LaShawn Ford sticks us with higher taxes while he gets a deal. We can't afford another self-dealing career politician in office. LaShawn Ford is not who we need in Congress. Paid for by Fair Shake and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Fair Shake is responsible for the content of this advertising. www.fairshakepac.com.
The 17 federal bank fraud charges that could have landed Ford in prison for decades have been dropped.
That's the truth, but outside groups are still spending millions lying and attacking my dad. I've watched him serve our communities for 19 years, every day fighting for families, fighting for seniors, and improving our neighborhoods.
And I'm ready to keep fighting for the 7th Congressional District. I'm LaShawn K. Ford, and I approve this message.
That's my dad.
You may recognize his voice.
I'm Barack Obama.
And his.
I'm J.B. Pritzker.
Two Illinois leaders who both agree Juliana Stratton is a fighter for Illinois families.
Juliana Stratton has spent her career serving our community and protecting public safety. Juliana will fight to get guns off our streets.
And no one knows Stratton better than Governor J.B. Pritzker. As Lieutenant Governor, Stratton worked with Governor Pritzker to raise the minimum wage, deliver paid time off, get assault weapons off our streets, and defend abortion rights.
Illinois deserves a United States Senator who knows how to fight for us. A senator who will never cower when the moment calls for courage. I'm proud to endorse Juliana Stratton for United States Senate.
You heard them. Now it's time to vote and send Juliana Stratton to the U.S. Senate. Paid for by Illinois Future PAC. IllinoisFuturePAC.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Illinois Future PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Robin Kelly grew up behind the register in her dad's grocery store. So she knows what it means when the same groceries cost more each week. Under Donald Trump, corporations get tax breaks, loopholes, and a green light to price gouge. Families get higher grocery bills, higher childcare costs, high healthcare premiums. It's Trump's economy. Corporate profits first, people last. In Congress, Robin Kelly's been fighting back. Robin took on insurance companies to lower drug costs. She wrote the law extending Medicaid for new moms to a full year because cutting care after 60 days was just wrong. And now Robin Kelly is running for Senate with a people over profits agenda. Medicare for all, so healthcare isn't a ripoff. Cap on childcare costs so families can work. And crack down on corporate price gouging so you're not punished at every turn. People over profits. Robin Kelly for U.S. Senate.
I'm Robin Kelly, Democrat running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Robin Kelly for Senate.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Laura Lockwood. A high wind warning continues until 4 p.m. this afternoon. Rain showers likely overnight, otherwise cloudy skies expected. Lows level off around 39. Southwest winds 20 to 25 miles per hour. Cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun. Friday, daytime highs approaching 48. Lows level off around 31. Friday night, mainly cloudy skies expected. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 4 degrees.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us this morning. Thanks to Amy McDonald. New voice on our show, and all the way from Seattle, Washington. Early this morning, she got up to hang out with us. And she's definitely one that you should pay attention to because she's not afraid to talk about history. And she does it in a way that I think is right in your face, and that sometimes is good and necessary. Somebody else can get right in your face and let you know what time of day it is, and has made it clear. I think the world's a better place because of endless urgency, because of the two words, endless urgency, 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 right now. 5-alarm fire. Who am I talking about? Democratic strategist and a dude that just has a lot to say about a lot of things, as I always say. Mike Nellis is with us this morning. Good morning, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Morning, my friend. How are you?
I am good, man. I mean, I think the bigger, more important question to me is I'm giving you a big brotherly hug and you doing better. I know that you made it public that you had some recent surgery. And as I put it to you, from a dude raised as a Baptist to a dude raised as a Catholic, we're sending you all the good vibes and good energy that you deserve in your recovery.
Thanks, buddy. I'm recovering well. Everything's going well. For those that don't know, I had abdominal surgery to remove dead tissue after losing 300 plus pounds, but I'm doing really well, and should be like a week or two away from full clearance.
That's good to hear, Mac. Really, really good to hear, and I know that's been a commitment of yours, and inspiration for a lot of people too. What Mike has done has not been easy, but what he's done has been committed to it, and I dare say he did it not so much for him, but for to let his son know he was going to be around for a while, and so kudos to you for taking the steps and the courage to do the work, Mike. Just got to say that to you on the air.
Thank you. This is way too sincere for 7:30 in the morning, Richard.
No, it's not, because well, hold up, man. You and I both know that at a moment's notice, you and I can suddenly break down and go and get into our cuss mode. So
that's true.
See, made you laugh on that because I can spin it real fast. Mike, these MFers in Washington, I mean. I've said this to a couple people, but you drive, I'll do the wet work because they have lost their ever-loving minds. They just
I don't know what you're talking. I don't know what you're talking about, Richard. Everything's going great. Like the economy is amazing. Nobody has any complaints. We're winning the war in Iran. We've decimated their entire military except for their drones, their Navy, their Air Force. They're blowing up our boats. I mean, the whole listen. All sarcasm aside, these guys have no idea what they're doing, and Donald Trump has installed an unbelievable number of unqualified sycophants all throughout the United States government, and we're experiencing the tailwinds of that, basically, which is Pete Hegseth is unqualified for his job, doesn't know what he's doing. Now they're waging an illegal war in Iran that's jacking up oil prices and getting Americans killed, creating chaos all over the Middle East. The economy is a disaster. I mean, yesterday, apparently, Donald Trump said something along the lines of nobody gives a S about housing, which is objectively false. And I just, these guys don't understand why they won. When Trump was elected in 24, his biggest promises were no more wars, no more forever wars. We're going to get housing down. We're going to get grocery down. Those things are going to happen on day one. And he's turned his back on every major promise that he's made. And you've got it to the point where MAGA influencers like Nick Fuentes, who is not a good human being, is basically a white supremacist, is going on his show. And he's going, I miss Joe Biden. Like, these guys miss Joe Biden now. It's crazy.
Look, man, I saw this dude down in Florida who said in an interview, he said, I miss my Uncle Joe because everything is that I was promised is not delivered. This is a white dude, voted Republican, voted for Trump. He said, I miss my Uncle Joe. And that, to me, I hope that it gets clipped by every single Democrat that's running in the midterms and the 2028 to use, because there it is. But I got to ask you this question, Mike. You and I are pretty self-sufficient dudes. But if somebody bought me a pair of shoes, like you and I are pretty straight up with each other. If I bought you a pair, if I just looked at your feet, you and I are hanging out at the bar smoking a cigar and drinking a bottle of beer, and I looked down and I said, yo, Mike, I'm going to send you some shoes, man. I don't know what your size is. I'm going to estimate that it's X. I sent them to your house. They got there, and they didn't fit. They weren't the right size. I got to believe that you'd go, yo, Chew, I love the idea, man. This is really nice of you to send me the shoes, but they don't fit. So how do I send them back? You want to come by and scoop them up, and you send them back? I'll appreciate another pair, but here's my size. I'm going to wear what fits me. You wouldn't punk out and go, I'll just keep them because, Rich got them from me. I don't want to insult him. Can you believe that? Can you actually believe this, Mike?
I can believe it because the White House is run by people who have no self-respect, period. Like, I would never allow myself to be treated by any of my clients or any politician or anybody on this planet the way that Donald Trump treats his cabinet and his employees. And the shoe thing is really silly and funny when you really stop and look at the photos of Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio wearing shoes that are clearly a size or two too big. It's really insane. But I would focus this in a couple other areas, which is look at the way that Donald Trump treats Carolyn Levitt, for example. And I'll harken back to that stupid racist AI meme where he depicted Barack and Michelle Obama as apes. The day starts with Carolyn Levitt going, you liberals, you just need to lighten up. It's just a silly joke. And then a couple hours later, they're like, hey, we're gonna take this down. It was an intern who posted it. It was a mistake. We'll take care of it. And then later that day, somebody asked Donald Trump if he had seen the video. And he was like, yeah, I saw the video. I posted it myself. And if a client ever did that to me, or basically embarrassed me in front of the entire world, I would quit because I just have enough self-respect. And there's also another thing here that's weird about Trump's orbit and MAGA world is the lack of individualism, which is so core to America. You have to fall in line, not just in your beliefs, but in the way that you look and you read these stories about. And I don't want to make this a gender thing, but you read these stories about women that have to go to this specific plastic surgeon to get this Mar-a-Lago face procedure done. I don't know if you've seen a Nicki Minaj now that she's a MAGA influencer because she needs a pardon for her pedo husband and brother. She straightened her hair and starts to, her hair looks just like Carolyn Levitt's. That's the kind of weird stuff that they do, and I just don't understand it.
I don't either, and I never have. I mean, listen, we've all, in some ways in our lives, had to fall in line for the moment to do something to get to the next stage. That's if people say that they haven't, then they're lying. So we've all had to do that, but not to the point where you debase yourself and it becomes your personality. It becomes who you are, and you've forgotten the independence that our mothers and fathers gave us. I mean, I see that, Mike, and I do. I sit back and I go, okay, the reason that this is relevant for people going, why are Richard and Mike talking about this? It's because nobody's standing up to him to say, for the greater good of our people, we're not going to allow this to happen. That's how I make the connection. If you're going to let a dude tell you got to wear the certain type of shoe or a certain type of tie or a certain dress or get makeup done a certain way, that's a personal thing. So you don't give a damn about anybody else if you're going to let somebody personally treat you that way, and everybody else is the rest of the country. And so for me, that's how I make the connection between these MFers. They've lost all sense of dignity. They've lost all sense of their own humanity, and now it's being spread out to the country, which to me is where Americans have the opportunity to push back and say, no, that's not for me.
That's 100% right. And I'll add here too is I'm a big fan of The Simpsons. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but
I'm a South Park nerd, so
I love South Park. So I can't quote South Park as freely as I can quote The Simpsons on your show due to certain restrictions. So there's a character in The Simpsons, Mr. Burns. He's like the billionaire tycoon of the town. He's got an assistant. His name is Mr. Smithers. Yep. Who's a sycophant, does whatever he wants, basically in love with Mr. Burns. This entire government is run by Smitherses. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It's like you just have a bunch of people who are worshiping at the altar of Donald Trump because they want proximity to power, they want money, they want it to be corrupt, they want to do whatever it is. And that's why when people, I get this all the time in my comments when I post on social media about something crazy Trump has done, people go, we need to invoke Article 25 and have him removed. These guys are never going to remove him because they're either true believers or they're like kids in a candy store who are thieving from the American people. Like Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent and the rest of them, they're stealing from the American people right now and day trading and doing insider trading and all kinds of stuff and manipulating the economy, and like they're never going to leave because they're given a free reign so long as they wear the right shoes and they wink at the president when he needs a hug.
Yeah,
I don't know. That doesn't make any sense, but you know what I mean.
It makes a ton of sense because then what happens is when it comes to going to war, he knows he's fertilized the ground so well that they're going to just go along. Yes, Mr. President. Okay, yeah, we think it's a great idea to do that because the Iranians are bad people. Not all 90 million folks in the country are bad. So but that to stay on point, what you just said is clearly why we've got to get more people to re-engage so that we can topple those who are sitting around and letting this garbage happen. You talked about this situation that Islamophobia moment with Adam Mockler. You guys are talking about this as it relates to Laura Loomer, and highlight that a little bit because this is another example of people just kind of going along, but there's also people out there who are actually taking advantage of and abusing the system, and she's one of them. You guys spoke to that in one of your recent Substacks.
Yeah, so for folks that don't know, Laura Loomer is a crazy right-wing conspiracy theorist. She spends her time on the internet trying to destroy people's lives by making stuff up. She has come after me and attempted to destroy my life and failed. In fact, it's the only reason I started to become like a public-facing member of the resistance, because I was like, screw this. If they're going to make stuff up about me, I might as well be out there to defend myself. And it's a whole sort of story. I won't waste the airtime on it. But Loomer is a tremendous racist. She is an Islamophobe. She is not a good human being. She's literally banned from like using Uber and Lyft for like apparently just like abusing drivers. Like this is the type of person we're talking about. Uber will basically let anybody on their platform, but not Laura Loomer. Now, Loomer thought it was a good idea to fly to India to speak at some event. I don't know why. And she has said such hateful things about the people of India, specifically because Kamala Harris is half Indian, and she had a series of tweets where she talked about how if Kamala Harris wins, the White House is going to smell like curry and be disgusting. I don't know why she thinks the White House smelling like curry would be disgusting. I think that would probably be awesome because curry's amazing. But she goes out there and there's this whitewashing of things, right? Like Laura Loomer is a close personal advisor to Donald Trump. They talk all the time. There's a lot of speculation that they're a relationship might be of a romantic nature. I try not to think about it too much because I think it's disgusting. But because she has that relationship, there's rooms that she walks into where people ignore who she is and what she has said and who she's hurt. And in this instance, she goes here, she gets this invite. And one of the biggest journalists in India grabs the mic and basically starts reading all of her posts back to her, and the crowd goes wild at the horrible things that she said about India, talking about running water and disease and civilization and stuff like that, and she gets absolutely destroyed. And those are the moments that I get really excited about, because I can't stand these people. There is a group of people who are these influencers, these MAGA politicians, these guys who are absolute losers, who spend all their time on the internet not building or creating or doing anything positive, but tearing stuff down. They want us to hate each other. And I refuse to hate my fellow man and my fellow woman in this country. I won't do it. And they deserve to be exposed. So these moments when the Laura Loomers of the world get exposed for the internet to see are very good and very healthy. And we need more people that are willing to do that, because she's got a relationship with Trump, so there could be real punishment there. Like, she could pick up the phone and call Donald Trump and say, I've been embarrassed. Can you do something about that? Go punish the people of India for what I've done. And he's vindictive enough to do it. So it comes at a cost when you stand up to these people. And we've seen that because Don Lemon got arrested for reporting on a protest at a church. And heck, Tucker Carlson, I don't like Tucker Carlson at all. He claims the CIA is spying on him right now and about to give a criminal referral because he opposes the war in Iran. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but it does sound like something Donald Trump would do. So we need more people that are going to have the courage to step into the arena and stand up to these guys. Otherwise, we're going to lose because they want you to be scared of them.
They absolutely want that to be the case. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking to Mike Nellis, host of Endless Urgency, Democratic strategist, and just a cool dude that's got a lot to say about a lot of things. Mike, big oil right now, defense contractors, corrupt politicians, all the rest, the Trump family. I don't know if you saw this $10 billion fee that the government is about to earn. They're calling it a success fee, and I talked about this earlier in the show. That's being paid to the government because they help to sort of broker, investment banker this deal with TikTok. And my position on it is pretty simple and pretty obvious for you guys to figure out. If the government's getting a fee and suddenly we're in the business of brokering deals with private businesses or public businesses to get access, then that money needs to come back to the American people. It does not need to sit in the coffers of the U.S. government. If it does, we need to know where it is. But I think that it should come back to the American people, particularly when we're looking at underfunding for so many different things. But it is ties to something you talk about so often, and that's the corruption that's taking place in this administration like no other. There's more corruption taking place in this administration than in any administration in my lifetime or going back to the 19th century.
I think this is the most corrupt president in American history, and it's not even close. Even if you go back to like Grant and patronage and all the stuff in New York and the harbor, it's just it's beyond the pale, and I think every American should be really upset about it, even if you're a conservative. And I would frame it, I talk to my dad's a big Republican. I talk to him all the time with these stories, like the TikTok deal for the $10 million finder's fee. Why is the United States government ever brokering private business deals? Like I'm old enough to remember when the Republican Party was the party of the free hand of the market will decide and handle everything. But my God, they only care about that when we say stuff like, hey, maybe people shouldn't go bankrupt when they get sick, or kids shouldn't be drowning in student loan debt. Then they're like, oh my God, that's socialism. No, actually, the government taking a 10% stake in Intel and brokering deals on TikTok so that Trump donors can own massive parts of our media ecosystem. That's actually socialism. It is actually wrong. Not that these guys are interested in that, but you come back to the war in Iran for a second. You mentioned defense contractors, you mentioned oil companies, you mentioned corrupt politicians. When these things happen and they're hard to explain, I always try to frame it this way: who benefits and who gets hurt? And I'd ask this question: is anybody in the United States better off because of the war in Iraq? I don't think so. Are any Iraqis better off because of the war in Iraq? I doubt it. Not to say that Saddam Hussein was a great leader or anything. He was a horrible monster who abused his people. But I'm not entirely sure that our presence in the region over more than a decade was good for anybody. And the same is true in Iran. But you know who it was good for? Man, those defense contractors made a ton of money.
Yes, they did.
Those oil companies made a ton of money at the expense of the American people. Corrupt politicians did really well. Dick Cheney's portfolio got bigger. Right now, the Trump family is investing in drone companies. Okay, Don and Eric Trump were on CNBC talking about how smart they were because they're investing in all these drone companies. And I'm like, congratulations. How did you get that Pentagon contract? Hard to figure it out. And so it's just it's ridiculous to watch this, and they're so brazen about it, and the American people don't seem like they're mad enough about it, in my opinion.
And that's not a finger point from us, from Mike or from me, to individually or collectively. It's to say, come on, y'all, we got to be. There was a post a couple of weeks ago from a guy on social media, and I can't call his name right now, but he said, y'all ain't mad enough yet. Y'all ain't mad enough. And it was behind the shooting of it was after Alex Pretty had been assassinated. He said, even though there's folks protesting and there's folks on the street, and there will be more, he said, we still ain't mad enough. We're not mad enough that these day-to-day bits of corruption are happening right in front of our eyes. And I get it. We're all out. You know, you're a great guy that does great stuff, but you're a regular dude. So you gotta do regular dude stuff, like be a dad and get healthy from a surgery and, you know, take out the trash. So we all got stuff going on. And like Amy said before you, get involved, folks. You cannot sit on the sidelines. There's too much on the line, and it affects everybody day to day. This war in Iran is a cluster F word to the 10th degree, because now, and Mike, you saw this, I'm sure, the guy that wants to diss NATO now wants to get fighters, naval people, military folks from the UK to help straighten out the situation because of proximity to the Straits of Hormuz. And they're saying, hey, man, you set it on fire, no pun intended, but you got to fix this. Our allies are backing away because this fool needed to protect himself from the pedophiles.
Well, can I add too? Our allies don't think they're our allies anymore. I mean, we're only a couple of weeks removed from Donald Trump trying to seize Greenland and all of Europe having to put troops in Greenland to stop it from happening. So they don't view the United States as an ally. They view us as an antagonist. And so we're isolated. If Donald, look, I'm far from a dove on military matters. I believe that we need a strong military, and sometimes we're going to have to use that. And I especially feel that way about Ukraine, which I think is the most important geopolitical fight in the world, although at the moment, what's happening in Iran might be more significant because of what we've done here. But, you know, you need to be able to build a coalition. And heck, say what you will about George W. Bush. I didn't like George W. Bush. I hated the war in Iraq. I protested the war in Iraq all throughout my high school and college years. But there was a plan there. There was an attempt to put a coalition together. Now, it was a bad plan and it was a poor coalition. But at least they tried. And I want to add one more thing just about like being a normal person and trying to resist is like, I tell people this all the time, is there's too much for you to engage with every single day, and you're going to have to take breaks. And sometimes your act of resistance that day is not doing anything. It's like taking a nap and taking care of yourself. And like yesterday, I didn't post once on social media. Okay. And like as a content creator, it's like a big no because you got to keep the algorithm happy and well fed all the time because it's a rat trap. And you know what I did yesterday? I took my son out for pancakes. I went on a walk. We went shopping. I watched the United States heroically beat the Dominican baseball team in the World Baseball Classic last night. And you know what? Monday morning, I'm a better political strategist. I'm a better commentator. I'm a better human being for it. And so I just want to remind people who are out there, we need you to get engaged. We need you to speak up and make your voice heard and put your body on the line. But we also need you to take care of yourself because you're no good to anybody if you burn yourself out.
Those words are sage if there ever were, because that's what actually we have to do. The recharge is so important for those of us, not just the Mike Nellises of the world, but for all of people who don't do what Mike does on the level that he does it. We recognize you have to recharge with anything. You got to take a break so you can come back stronger. And that's what we want to see, is people be engaged, but also be mindful of what you got to do to take care of yourself. Because part of their strategy is to get people so spun up that they don't take care of themselves. That's the subliminal part of what's happening here. And so if you guys are paying attention across the country, what Mike just said is spot on. Mike, I want to wrap up with something that's a little fun, but something that just we can throw some thoughts at. What do you? It's March Madness. You're a Notre Dame guy. It's that time of year. Who you got?
Well, my Fighting Irish did make the tournament,
I know,
which is obnoxious. I think I'm gonna pull for Gonzaga. Like I really like this Gonzaga team. The couple times I've watched them play, I like BYU too. I think BYU's team is fun to play, high scoring. I think it's gonna be hard to beat. I think Duke and Arizona are gonna be the two teams that are like hard to beat. And I think, God, I haven't put my bracket together yet and really done the research, but I have to guess. I think Arizona wins because they're healthier. But who knows, man? I mean, and by the way, Sweet 16 and Elite 8 here in the city of Chicago. I've got tickets to both. That's going to be my first public sporting event I get to go to. Well, except for opening day next week at Wrigley.
There you go. Mike Nellis, Endless Urgency. Thanks for hanging out with us. And again, some more vibes to you and getting healthy. We appreciate you hanging out with us this morning, Mike.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
Talk to you soon. 773-763-9278 is our number, but we're wrapping up for the day. So stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show. And as always, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
Election night is almost here. Join us for the WCPT Election Night Special on Tuesday, March 17th from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. hosted by Joan Esposito, Richard Chu, and me, Patty Vasquez.
Election Day coverage will start with Joan Esposito live, local and progressive from 2 to 5, and Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez from 5 to 7.
WCPT will have reporters all over Chicagoland with updates from state and local candidates' election headquarters.
The WCPT Election Day coverage and the WCPT Election Night Special are sponsored by Fazio Insurance,
an independent insurance agency serving residents and businesses in Will and DuPage counties since 1953.
For more information, contact Paul Fazio at 815-727-2611 or at FazioINS.com.
Remember to join WCPT Radio on Tuesday, March 17th to get the latest primary election news.
See you on the radio at 8:20 a.m. and WCPT820.com.
Who is Kevin Ryan? Hey, that's me. I'm a Chicago public school teacher, union member, and Marine Corps veteran. Most importantly, I am a New Deal Democrat from a new generation, and I am running for the United States Senate to make our government work for all of us, not just the 1%. Now, you might not have heard of me because, well, I am just like you. I don't have millions of dollars to spend on TV ads, I'm not backed by a billionaire, and I've been excluded from the debates because I refuse to raise millions of dollars from the 1%. Instead, I am backed by ordinary people like you. I'm the only candidate to campaign in all 102 counties in my campaign school bus, and we fund our campaign by simply passing a hat around. So we thought we'd spend some of that money to introduce our campaign to you on WCPT Radio. If you want to send a real progressive to the United States Senate and not another bought and paid for Democrat, go to kevinryan.com, spread the word, and vote for the candidate endorsed by Illinois progressives. My name is Kevin Ryan, I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by people of Illinois and Kevin Ryan.
Staples has hot deals and low prices on everything for your business, like up to $125 off your print order. Ends April 18th. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details.
AP News, I'm Haya Panchwani. President Donald Trump may delay his China trip due to the Iran war. AP correspondent Mike Hempen reports don't expect gas prices to come down right away.
Speaking on NBC's Meet the Press, Energy Secretary Chris Wright says Americans will feel the impact of energy supplies being cut off from the Strait of Hormuz for a few more weeks.
It is a short-term disruption in the flow of energy. Americans are feeling it right now. Americans will feel it for a few more weeks.
But Wright believes the war could be over in a matter of weeks and thinks there's a good chance the price of gas will be below $3 a gallon by the start of the summer travel season. This Atlanta resident says she's feeling the impact of higher prices.
I think they're quite expensive right now, especially for $4.30, 87. That's a lot.
Oil prices have reached $100 a barrel, and analysts have said if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, prices could jump to $150 a barrel. I'm Mike Hempen.
U.S. markets climbed into positive territory early today, and the price of oil dipped but remained high at around $100 a barrel. Flooding in Hawaii left some in a rather sticky situation.
As torrential rain hit Hawaii, acres of farmland and homes have been flooded. Roads have been closed, shelters opened. Some areas of Maui received more than 20 inches of rain. On the island of Oahu, floodwaters brought mud and overflowing sewage into one ground floor apartment. Eliza Talbot told Hawaii News Now that she lives directly upstairs from the flooded unit. Although her home was not damaged, they were still trapped.
What we had to do was use paddle boards and kayaks and stuff just to get my kid out to the car. And
as for the cleanup,
I don't even know how you fix this. It's just it's gross.
I'm Lisa Dwyer.
This is AP News. AP correspondent Julie Walker reports on one family's journey from slavery to the White House, serving presidents for nearly 8 decades.
Descendants of John Ficklin, born a slave, have worked with 13 presidents for nearly 8 decades, from Franklin D. Roosevelt to Barack Obama. Ficklin's grandson, John Worry Ficklin, recounts that history in his new book.
We quietly served behind the scene to make progress in our country.
He spent 40 years on the National Security Council. His father, John Woodson Ficklin, worked 44 years as a White House butler and maitre d', and was an usher at JFK's funeral.
And I'm proud of my dad's service. I'm proud of my granddad. If you think about it, we both, my dad and I, both stand on my grandfather's shoulders.
Other Ficklin family members also worked at the White House over the years. I'm Julie Walker.
I'm Haya Punchwani, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Laura Lockwood. A high wind warning continues until 4 p.m. this afternoon. Rain showers likely overnight, otherwise cloudy skies expected. Lows level off around 39. Southwest winds 20 to 25 miles per hour. Cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun Friday. Daytime highs approaching 48. Lows level off around 31. Friday night, mainly cloudy skies expected. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 45 degrees.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
She was born on the south side of Chicago, the daughter of a teacher and Navy veteran. Now she's running for U.S. Senate to fight for us, Juliana Stratton. As Lieutenant Governor, she fought with Governor Pritzker to get assault weapons off our streets. She raised our wages and delivered paid time off. And Juliana Stratton is endorsed by Governor Pritzker because she'll be a partner to him in Washington. In the Senate, Stratton will stand up to Donald Trump to defend our rights and lower our costs.
If there's ever been a time that we need fighters in Washington, it's right now. I will be that fighter. People are tired of the status quo, and they are looking for people who will meet this moment. I want to fight to give the people what they want.
Endorsed by Governor Pritzker, Juliana Stratton for Senate. Because you deserve a fighter. Paid for by Illinois Future PAC. IllinoisFuturePAC.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Illinois Future PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Excuse me, miss. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can you recommend a bank that offers a full suite of commercial banking products along with excellent service?
Yes, ABOC.
What about a bank that has been in Chicago for more than 100 years and really understands the local business climate?
ABOC.
But I manage a labor union. Can you recommend a bank that really understands how labor unions operate and what banking products they need?
Again, ABOC. ABOC first opened its doors in downtown Chicago in 1922 and understands the local business climate better than anyone. ABOC was founded by labor unions and still has union employees and shareholders today. So they really understand how unions tick and how their needs may be different. But whether you're with a labor union or another type of business, whether you're large or small or something in between, ABOC will always make you feel like you're their most important customer. Visit ABOC.com to learn more.
Wow, thank you, random person on the street. I'm going to visit ABOC.com today.
Member FDIC.
WCPT 820, Chicago's